Go ahead and start recording for me.
Like I said, we're gonna go at about 6:05.
Okay. Let me check.
And they started saying, don't get worried about it. But a couple of people want to give you a better grade to go. I said, what? Well, you know what they're like. It's like, what part of free do you people want to know?
That's why they don't want it.
I love those. They're a fun group.
You might say they're set in their ways.
Well, I admire,
Good.
because Chance is so patient, Oh, yeah. Can we get the turkey fix this one? Can we?
What do you have on here?
I don't like the movie. This
I did not.
I'm sorry,
Well,
I didn't forget, I've been busy about the plan.
Oh.
All right.
When is that gonna start?
We're in the process of putting it together.
Okay, I'll email you while I'm sitting here. Okay, so any idea when it'll start then? January-ish or?
Late
No,
January.
so Jennifer says, does he work for us?
Our goal is just to have this advisory committee put together and formed by the end of the year.
Sam probably said, well, where do you work?
Yeah, that's what.
15 to 18,
Okay.
not 11.
I mean, you know,
That's for sure
he
then.
was, he didn't stay.
Okay.
Well, when she looked at it.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, as well.
What's your vacation?
I'd be glad. Go for it. Okay. But, tell them where.
You know what? I don't think I have them with me.
Should be on my desk.
Yes, we did, because we had a lot of audience participation questions.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I brought my,
Okay, just.
Richard. Yes. Yes, as long as, I was really confused when I first got at Maricopa, was sworn in, appointed, people were dash. Indian dates, but also. It was a clerical. I really have to
Well, it's good.
We're practicing like the city council, we'll start 10 minutes late.
You just getting started. I'm just getting excited.
Yeah, that's very awesome.
Hoping to start your way.
sorry to begin to.
Well, they're the council persons. December. Truly not official.
Yeah, but I'm
Especially those who.
Steve.
That individual.
Because Bill, I don't have
His or her boss. I mean, whoever they don't think to this way, or your kids.
Yeah.
We were gonna meet, this was his chief too. Yeah, us
Definitely can't have this up there.
Written feature.
That's what.
She could have to make an announcement, hey guys, the last DJ invites you up to the stage, you can stay on.
Right.
Because they get confused when they see.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but it didn't help. It's a lot easier to control. So.
I saw it and I agree with it. But
He said, come on. I'm talking too quiet. Everybody would get the first 4 months to say, oh, yeah.
I got involved in it, this was back in 2009. And I was put on the newly formed,
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment. I understand brain first.
Yes. And on that board was Christian Fox. He contained the vice chair, and a fellow by the name of Dave Jones, he was the chair. Long story short, I was chair of that Board of Adjustment for years.
If you like, up front, it's closer to the microphone. You have to get up there. Perfect.
So.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of more minutes and we'll get this going.
We got one like.
When I first started out, Christian.
No, okay.
Scratching back. He might be congested, but it's not that severe. I'll give you just that package. I got a telephone.
Mr. Chairman, anytime you're ready.
Okay, all right.
Good afternoon, thank you for coming. We'll call the meeting to order of the Maricopa Planning and Zoning Commission this Monday, December 9th, 2024 at 6:07 p.m. We'll have our invocation by Commissioner Irving and a pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Warren. Please stand if you're able.
Dear Father, we want to thank you for another day and let us rejoice in this wonderful day you've given us. As we go about doing our business for the city, let us always remember that you are our guide, you are our light, you are the lamp on our feet that we go by. Be with us, guide us, keep us well, keep us strong, and for all the citizens in our great community. We ask this in your name. Amen. Amen.
Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. That'll take us to roll call, please.
Commissioner Dunn,
Here.
Commissioner Warren,
Here.
Chair Vice Chair Singleton,
Here.
Chair Robertson,
Here.
Commissioner Irwin,
Here.
Commissioner Yoakum,
Here.
and Commissioner.
Thank you. I'll take us to item number 3, call to the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a speaker card submitted to the chairman at the start of the meeting. The procedures to follow if you wish to address the commission are as follows. Commission requests that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The chairman will limit discussions whenever he deems such an action is appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. I do not have any speaker cards. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll close the call to the public. Take this item number 4, minutes, review and approve the minutes from the November 25th meeting, 2024. Commissioners have read, have any comments? Would like to make a motion?
So motion.
Commissioner Graham's motions to approve, second.
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Thomas, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And those minutes are approved. Takes us to our regular agenda, item number 5, 5.1, GPA 2404. This will be a public meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss a request by the City of Maricopa for a major general plan amendment on approximately 716.5 gross acres of land from Master Plan Community, MDC, Medium Density Residential, MDR, and Open Space, OS, to the Employment E designation. The proposed amendment is generally located in the south of the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, east of North Porter Road, east of North White and Parker Road, and north of West Peters and Knoll Road. And if you can figure out where that's at.
A lot of land.
A lot of land. This will be for discussion only. Take it away, Rick.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. If you don't know where it is, I'm fixing to tell you a little bit about where it is. So that's a perfect intro, Chairman, into the very first slide that we have. So as you stated, it's about 716 acres, and I would just start by saying that the total aggregate area is a little over 1,300. And we're lucky in the sense that we get to actually use the pointer today, so I may step out here a little bit. But as you can see, this is the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway right here. Start up here on the north, Farrell Road comes down here all the way around, which totals about 1,300 acres, 1,325, 1,340, somewhere in that area. As you stated, it's south of the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, east of North Porter Road, east of White and Parker, and north of Peters and Knoll. The City of Maricopa is the applicant on this, and the proposal before you this evening is to amend the future general plan land use map from master plan community, medium density residential, open space to the employment category. Let's change slides here. So that's your general vicinity map. This is the current land use map as it states today. And I'm just going to point out a few of the unique characteristics about this. It's a combination of city-owned and private parcels. So we're not the only applicant in this. As I said, it's a total of about 1,320 acres total, but we're amending about 716 of them. I'm getting away from the microphone here. And as we stated, not once but twice, but it's master plan community, medium density residential, open space, and a sliver of commercial right down here in the corner. And we believe this to be a mapping area for this little piece right here on the east side of that, north side of that property line, because we can't find anything that dictated that back when this map was done in 2016. So obviously it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense with the way it's lined out. So when we really start to look at this, oh, gosh darn it. Should have never given me the pointer. So we're looking at the tan areas is what we're looking at, and the green areas, which are predominantly in these areas right here. Because everything that you see that's in gray here is already designated as employment on the land use map. The other big portion of this is the Santa Rosa Wash running up through here. You see how wide that is. We're going to talk about that in a little bit because we're reducing the size of that as well. So just moving forward here, this is what the proposed map will look like. And you'll notice that the width of the channel has gotten much smaller. And we've made the correction for all of the employment uses in here. So what's important about this and what really makes it work? When you take a look at what's around it, we think about things in a regional aspect. You've got the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway here, but more importantly, you have the railroad system going right down there. So there is a unique opportunity for railroad spurs and really, a unique opportunity that the spur system or the potential spur system provides. You've got the east-west corridor running through there. You've got the future I-11. You've got Interstate 10 to the west. So when you look at it in terms of transportation and accessibility from a transportation network, it really is an optimal opportunity here in this location. The employment use designation, it's a broad designation. It offers up office, industrial, and commercial. Varying scales of intensity, with respect to the light industrial uses to more heavy industrial uses. Most of it based off of transportation network type, warehousing, distribution, things of that nature. But it's also, as I said, a varying scale of intensity. It's also designed for retail, wholesale, and business park as well. So it's got a lot of variety in it. It's got a lot of leeway, for lack of a better term, into what exactly would fit in there. We talked about the Santa Rosa Wash and the reduction of that. So originally this was constructed that created this floodplain in the 1960s, right? And inevitably it ate up a lot of the acreages on both sides of that to account for that floodplain. So the biggest thing that has happened is we've been working on a regional solution with the city of Maricopa for a number of years now. But recently, CLOMAR, which is a certified letter of map revision, has been approved by FEMA. So with the regional solutions, the Santa Rosa Wash, as it previously was noted, and if you remember right up in here, it came out to about here. It came out to about here. It was hundreds of acres. The 716 acres that we're actually amending are mostly comprised of that washing. It was just wasted away. So with the revision, with the regional solution, it allows us to funnel that down. So there's more to that, and I'm going to get to it here in just a second. With respect to conformance with the general plan, contained in your staff reports are all the goals and objectives that were met. This is not a conclusive list. Every one of them are listed in the staff reports. What I went in and did was pull just the critical elements out of this and just touch base on these, but I would direct your attention to the staff report for members of the public and those that are watching online. They're available on our website, but it meets numerous goals and objectives of the general plan. But just to go through a few, the growth area element, achieve a balance in the community between jobs and housing. We talk about housing all the time. And for the 4 years I've been here, we've talked about the lack of opportunities from an employment standpoint, how we need to find that balance. This meets that objective. Develop an efficient and safe transportation system providing multimodal connectivity to other cities and regions. We just hit that nail right on the head when we talk about the regional opportunities based on the location of where this proposal is this evening. Establish Maricopa as a regional leader in economic development with properly aligned resources and tools. Again, when you look at the potential of this area, bringing the employment land use district designation to this area, given what we've talked about already with the proximity to the regional and local transportation, it again meets that element, I think, quite satisfactorily. Recreation and open space element. I chose this one because we've been talking about the Santa Rosa Wash. So I think it's important to talk a little bit about next steps when we talk. The Santa Rosa Wash is a regional trail network that's planned. Okay. So although we're changing the land use description on these, there is a hodgepodge of current zoning that already exists on these subject sites. So as future development grows and as these companies want to come in, they're going to have to come in and rezone these properties to PAD, so you'll get to see this again. But based on the Santa Rosa Wash, the open space requirements in there, I assure you that it will be a point of interest with anyone coming through, that the preservation of that wash bank and corridor with its multi-use trail and multiple connections to the wash will be maintained as we move forward. So even though we are reducing the amount of open space there, we're still keeping the critical amount with the future plans to include a trail system on the north and south side of that wash that will eventually run for miles and provide connectivity for future residents, as well as those that are here now. With respect to public outreach, major general plans are different. One, it requires 2 P&Z meetings, and one of them has to be off-site, and it's us being here tonight in the library. It also requires a 60-day agency review notification, and an agency review notification goes much more deeper than just the 600-foot notification for owner occupied, or not occupied, but landowners. 60-day agency, ADOT, ED3, Global Water, Casa Grande, City of Goodyear. It's an extensive list, about 24 names on that. We initiated the 60-day review on September 25th, 2024. The neighborhood notifications were sent. We had our neighborhood meeting on November 6th. Newspapers are published November 20th. The site was posted, and just for clarification, we posted it with 5 different signs in 5 different locations to cover at all the major intersections. Public meeting postcards were mailed out on the 19th, and on November 25th, the 60-day agency review closed. Just as a point of note, we had the only correspondence that we received back was from the irrigation district, and essentially stated that we have irrigation canals running through a lot of this, and we would work with them in the future as each of these developments come through. Which brings us to December 9th, where we are here tonight, the first Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. That pretty much covers this. As I've stated, tonight is an informational only gathering. No action will be taken this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Joshua Newcomb from Economic Development is kind enough to be here with us tonight. So we'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, Commissioners, this is a meeting to ask, our opportunity to ask questions. I'll start off with, this is a great continuation of the vision that we've already had, and the balance between employment and housing. We often hear from the public that the city, all we want to do is build houses and bring people, and we're not working the other end of the spectrum. This shows that the city is clearly working the other end of the spectrum to bring employment opportunities to the community. The only question I had, you talked about the city's not the only applicant. Could you expound about, I've never heard that before, and how the city works with co-applicants from the private sector. Maybe give us a little insight on how that works.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, so when we talk about this, and Josh, if you want to expand on this, feel free. When we talk about this entire area being of employment designation, and the benefits of it, city owns a bunch of those parcels, and probably more than privately owned. Don't quote me on that. Maybe that's not a fair statement, but as we were putting this together and looking at other parcels of land that would be beneficial, not only to us, but to the community and to the property owner themselves, we reached out and shared with them, hey, we're going to process this amendment. If you'd like to be a part of it, we can do it right now, and you don't have to come back and do it. So we offered that option to them, and it went over handsomely. It didn't cost the property owner anything. City's processing the amendment, so why not jump on it if you see the benefit of where this is going?
So we had, of the property owners you contacted, you had 100% buy-in?
Josh, I would defer to you on that.
Okay.
Yes, we have sent the owner of the organization up to them, and they have gladly signed. So it's ready that they're all on board and support.
Okay. I understand we're in the early stages and negotiations continue. I understand how that works. Just curious on how that relationship works. Commissioners?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Commissioner?
Yeah, going back to circulation connectivity element and then tying it in with goal number 2. I just think it's really important that during this whole concept that we really all work together to lay out a plan, because again, driving around the city right now, this afternoon, I didn't know Edison was torn, whatever. My point being, I just think it's really important that with a development this big, that we really sort of have a real proactive approach with citizens about what this is going to look like. You can't look at, Custer Highway as it is now, that kind of thing, how it affects schools, how it affects everything, because again, whether people show up or not, that's their call. But I just think those two as goals are what really I hear a lot about in the city right now, and we try to tell people there is a plan. So my suggestion would be to really trot that out as we go and show people that it'll take this long in the development, but this is going to be happening in between, but there is an end to all this. So I love that that's there, and I just think, again, to be able to respond to those two concepts on E2 and also the connectivity would just really help. Even as we, I know we're going to get into the new plan, but even as we expand that out 5-10 years, and that the city does have a plan, I guess is all I'm
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Irving, excellent point. What I can tell you is, we've got the regional transportation plan that's being updated right now. As I stated, we're just dealing with land use today. All of this development's gonna have to come in and rezone this property, these properties as we go. So we're gonna get to see, traffic impact analysis reports. We've got additional staff on hand that's gonna specialize in that. So I feel pretty comfortable, given the nature of what we foresee for the future development, and working together, knowing that transportation and connectivity is so important in the city, that will be a point of content.
Perfect. Mr. Morris.
First off, thanks for the presentation, very informative. It makes it a lot easier to hear you talk about it than to sit there and read all those pages. I think a lot of citizens would feel the same way. Anyway, what caught my attention is the 60-day agency review. Am I correct in understanding that the only ones that responded was the irrigation district? Now, would that be whoever runs the canal system here, or is that Global Water, or who is that?
No, that's a good question. It's the MSIDD.
Okay.
And that is corrected in all the agency review letters that I sent out. They were the other ones who responded.
And the reason I asked that is because if we didn't get anything from ED3, and they're the major, well, they are the only supplier of our electrical needs here in Maricopa, there's a lot of things that fall behind that. A lot of contingency planning, resource planning, emergency operations planning, and a lot of that falls back, it goes like to whoever they get their resources from, with Salt River, APS, WAPA, whoever. Those need to be notified on an annual basis what your resource plans are. And we don't have to worry, well, we really don't have to worry about it because that's their business, because they manage our system. But it is important for us at the same time for whoever's going to be building all these businesses or all these industrial parks, that they're going to have sufficient needs met. And that's my concern.
Chairman and Commissioner Morris, again, excellent point. I would defer to Josh on this, who may be able to be more specific. But I would imagine the city with putting together this vision. I would assume there have already been some communication with ED3, Global Water, those critical utilities that they're going to need to make this happen. The railroad, the ability to actually build the spurs, how many, how often, how far in between. I haven't been privy to those conversations, but I would be very surprised if they weren't happening as these companies look to invest hundreds of millions of dollars coming in. But again, I would defer to Josh on that. He may be able to give you a better answer than that.
That's probably a good segue. Josh, is there anything that you could give us, enlighten us about the potential future of the economic development that may be coming, or what you're looking at, what you're dreaming about maybe?
Okay, Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to talk. So, like Rick rightly pointed out, and he's right, we've been working with all the utility providers, Global Water, 83, and all of them are aware, and we're kind of talking with them. The developer, as I speak now, we have already executed a contract, so they are in the due diligence phase of everything, so they're working closely with them. So I would say that's something that we have done and we continue doing, and they tell us that when they're about to build, they work with them and make sure that all the power that is needed for the project is being met. Yes.
Anybody else have any questions for Josh while he's up there? He's on the economic development side rather than the planning and zoning side.
I have a question.
Commissioner Thomas.
No, if Rick will send me to Josh or not, but we'll see. Great presentation, Rick, and it's always so interesting. And Rick always works with me on the side when I have really fundamental questions. So it may fall into Maurice, I'll meet with you later. But when I see the wash being reduced, areas that are going to be useful, or the acreage, the people that own the property near the wash now, do they consume that area just because they're adjacent to it now, or does that become like a whole new open area for development and or purchase? And let me just continue on before I forget. And then you also mentioned something about trails systems along the wash. My terminology may be a little lost, but is that trails something that would be utilized just for walking, or is it a trail system that's wide enough for vehicles of some sort? So if you can give me a little bit on that trail system. And the last thing would be the irrigation systems. I always see them, the ones that are dried up and not being used. When the irrigation systems are reduced, is that an advantage toward a whole water issue? Do they just get filled in? And what happens with the irrigation systems when they're not used? And thank you.
Chairman, commissioners, excellent questions. And I'm going to start with the third one because that's the one that's probably simplest to. So the MSIDD has these canals that run all through this. It was pretty much farmland, alfalfa, cotton, and other agricultural type farming. So as development occurs, sometimes they sell off a piece of property that's no longer going to be farmed, and a portion of that lateral, as they call them, will dry up. That does happen from time to time. When that's been determined, it's usually removed with future development. However, there are times when development continues around and they continue to farm, in which case, say like for just example, a subdivision comes in, and on the other side of it, they're still farming. But on this side of it, they're essentially going, then they would be required to tile it, which puts it underground, tiles it so it flows under, they can continue their watering process, and yet the developer can build and utilize that land for something. So it doesn't really provide an advantage or a disadvantage because there's always an easement that goes along with that. So does that answer that?
Absolutely.
With respect to the wash itself, so, and I want to take just this, I'm just going to take this piece right here as an example. All right, so there's probably 30 to 50 acres there that were designated back in the 60s as being part of the floodplain. So by, developing that regional solution, obtaining that certified letter of map revision from FEMA, it allows, as you've seen in the other, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just go right to it. Sorry, I'm wondering these two confused. So all that land right up here that was green, that prior to was undevelopable, is now it becomes employment land use, and they're able to develop the full scale of that parcel. However, like I said earlier in the presentation, this is a regional trail corridor. Right, and Josh can attest to this with every conversation we've had about people coming in and purchasing these, developing that trail system will be a part of their development. So when they come in they're all going to need PADs. Straight hard zone, light industrial zoning is not going to get anybody where they want to go. They're going to come in for PADs. And when they come in for that PAD, they're going to have to show their frontage along the trail corridor. They're going to have to show the improvements, and that'll be typically, sir, it is multi-use trails. 8 to 10 foot sidewalk with a DG trail for bike and other. You may see exercise stations along there. I mean, there is a lot of sitting benches with shade. Trash receptacles. That's what a regional trail is. And that's what you're going to see, that will go all the way from there. Well, it actually ends right up there by this Farrell Road, which is now the south east-west corridor. you know, and there'll be a trail that comes all the way down that, probably on both sides.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Warren?
I have a follow-up question on the trails.
Yes, sir.
Now, the only usable part is going to be the banks of the wash, right? Or are they going to, okay.
Yeah.
So is there going to be a requirement for barriers to prevent people from going into the wash?
Excellent question, Commissioner Juarez. Yeah, that's, you know, we typically deal with that on a case-by-case basis, you know, depending upon which parcel it is. You know, it does weave in and out a little bit still. But bank stability is always the most critical part of that. The trail will not be located in the wash, it'll be adjacent to the wash. So it will be on their property, the beautiful part, and we'll talk about this somewhere down the road as we get into the development. But they'll be required to build that trail along their frontage. Whether the city maintains that or the applicant maintains that, that's still to be determined down the road. There are advantages to both. I don't know that that's been ironed out at this point. But that corridor and that wash corridor is very, extremely important to the city. And we're going to make sure that becomes a community amenity, not an applicant amenity or a development amenity. You know, it's got endless potential. I mean, anyone that's along that, you know, you have the ability to build outdoor sitting areas for your employees that can go walk up and down that at lunch. I mean, it's a huge asset to anyone coming in. And in the preliminary talks that I've been a part of, that wash has been an emphasis as much as travel and railroad.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I know when it does rain here, and it rains, I first moved here, that's the first time I went down into that wash. And that water does run pretty good. So my concern is having the public, maybe someone falling in for going and looking, that they don't realize who they are, the bank's unstable, and they fall in.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, in our engineering requirements, there are specific standards based on what the conditions are, whether it needs guardrails, you know, ADA ramps. There are all kinds of safety, what's the word I'm looking for? Safety measures we can take to mitigate those types of possible issues.
Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
Just a comment. When I reviewed this material, it's obvious that this project has many, many moving parts. And there's no way that we can sit here and anticipate what they might be. There are going to be a lot of changes, a lot of thinking and rethinking is going to occur. When I looked at what has been put together by the planning department, a lot of thought went into trying to align what you're suggesting we could and should be doing, along with the general plan, and especially the various sections. Just when we talk about a balance between jobs and housing, that's addressed. Removal from the floodplain, wash, adequate water and sewer, cooperating with other agencies, residents, and businesses. I can go on as to what is required in the general plan and how well you folks have addressed it in your presentation you gave us tonight. And my hat is off to you. Thank you.
I guess I have one more since the discussion on the wash and the Clomer came forward. So we get the Clomer approved, and magically we're now authorized to reduce the acreage of the wash. What happens to the water? Are we making the wash deeper? I mean, the wash is naturally a certain width and dimensions because of what has happened historically with runoff. We don't control the runoff, Mother Nature does. So does the wash get made deeper? Or where's that water going to magically go to?
Chairman, members of the commission, my first statement on this is going to be I'm not a floodplain expert. You know, but I did have a conversation with Dan Frank, who is a floodplain expert, before I came to this meeting this evening. And two things. because I'm not gonna be able to explain this near maybe we'll have him at the next meeting on but the short answer to that, Chairman, is there's not more water there, it's being diverted. The regional solution is a comprehensive response to an overall area, not just this flow. And there's multiple facets of the regional solution that are in place here. I wouldn't even begin to try and explain it. But what I can tell you is that, through those solutions, water's running in different, they're diverting it to different areas, to different spillways. And again, I don't want to butcher it, but we're not digging the wash any deeper. We're just changing the flows in it.
Okay, and that answers my plan. So there's work going on behind the curtain.
Yes.
That will address that as we get closer.
And I'll bring Dan to the next meeting, and I think he can probably give a much better.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, when it comes to the flood issue, is the Maricopa Flood District involved? And if they have been involved, to what extent, what's expected of them?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I don't know the answer to that. That's the Maricopa Flood Control District typically deals with stuff farther up north. I don't know how involved they've been in some of the regional discussions that we've had here. Commissioner Yoakum is just totally out of my expertise, and I just don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly find out.
Okay, and I know that the Flood Management District also takes it upon themselves to keep keep them clean,
Right.
removing the various rubble overgrowth or whatever. I don't know if they're involved in this particular situation or not.
Yeah, again, really good question. I don't know the answer to that, and I would rather refer to the next meeting to get some information for you than give you the wrong information, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, well, this is not a public hearing, but it is a public meeting. So I'll just revert back to call to the public. Is there anybody in the audience that has a question they would like to bring forward at this time? No? Okay, we'll do a second shot for the audience. Okay, if there's no action required of us, we'll close this agenda item. Thank you, Rick.
My pleasure, sir.
That takes us to item number 6, reports from the commission and our staff. While you're up there, Rick, take it away.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this evening. Just a couple of things to talk about real quick. Next meeting is going to be December 23rd, 2024. Again, I apologize for that, but we needed to get these 2 planning commission meetings done. It is what it is. What I would like to do, and I know I sent out emails to each of you just trying to get a feel. I'd like to do a roll call, and if I could just ask, by a show of hands. If you're going to be here on the 23rd, could I see a show of hands? That's all I needed to know. Thank you very much. And we'll see you on the 23rd. And I just would point out that our first meeting in January is going to be the 27th, 2025. That seems so strange to be saying 2025. We may have a new commissioner that evening, and we'll also go through the election of officers that night. So just giving you all a heads up of what's to come. In closing, I would just say again, thank you so much for your efforts. I appreciate you all being here. But I really need to give a big shout out to Abel and his team. We couldn't do this here tonight without those guys sitting over there, and they knock it out of the ballpark every time they have something to do. And I appreciate, Abel, everything you and your team do for us. And man, just way to go. With that, Chairman, that concludes my remarks, and I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rick. Final call for comments from the commissioners. Anything for the good of the Corps? Okay. That takes us to executive session. We have no request for executive session. Takes us to adjournment. Take a motion.
So moved.
So move second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, man. See you Friday, man.
If tomorrow.
Well, I won't be there tomorrow.
We won't be.
Friday.
Friday, I'll see you Friday.